Today on the season premiere of the Tiger Football Report, head coach Rob Ambrose and I will preview the Tigers' season opener against the Bulls of South Florida. Get ready, Tiger fans. The Tiger Football Report returns now.
For an athlete, there's nothing scarier than a torn ACL.
Athletes trust us with their care and their careers because we're a recognized leader in sports medicine.
Get back to your active life sooner with MedStar Sports Medicine.
And here we have 1893 from the makers of Pepsi Cola. I'm gonna swirl it. I'm gonna smell it. I'm just gonna take one small sip.
Kinda seemed like more than a sip.
Yeah, let me show you. Refined.
1893, made with cola nut extract and real sugar. Boldly blended colas.
Wise Market's ice cream plant is based in Sunbury, Pennsylvania, and locally owned and operated. We've been making our ice cream for nearly 50 years. We create roughly 70 flavors of ice cream right now. We use local ingredients, especially our cream, which is from our milk plant. The cream is what gives our ice cream a rich and creamy texture. Now, together with our customers, we've created a product called Peanut Butter Indulgence, which will be coming out this summer. It's a peanut butter ice cream with sea salt caramel swirl and chocolate-covered pretzel. How could you go wrong with that? Personally, I love our ice cream. If you come to our house at any given time, you'll find at least 5 packets of ice cream in our freezer. Our kids grew up eating Wise quality ice cream, and now we get to treat our grandchildren to it. It's been a pleasure for me to be tasting ice cream for over 40 years for Wise Markets, and I'm loving every minute of it.
Welcome to the Tiger Football Report, being filmed today inside the home of the Tigers, Johnny Unitas Stadium. The Tigers will open up their season on the road against the University of South Florida Bulls. As always, I'm joined by the head coach of the Tigers, Rob Ambrose. Coach, welcome back to the Tiger Football Report for another season.
Thank you. It's that time of year.
Other than this being the season opener, the other big news leading into this game is that late last week, you announced a starting quarterback, Morgan Mihalik, transfer from the University of Oregon. But as you said in the press release, the fact that it took so long for you to name a starter meant that there was a heck of a competition going on all summer long.
It really was. Well, some people say it took so long because I'm not smart enough to figure it out. It takes me a long time. But no, it was great. It wasn't good competition. It was great competition. And having 3 quality young men who understand the offense, what needs to get done, how it needs to get done, and watching them work through it together instead of separately is probably one of the more prouder moments in the development of a team. That those guys are not individuals. They're part of the team, and they're a team as a unit themselves, just 3 of them. And even after the starter was named, they keep working cogs in a wheel together for the greater good. It's kind of makes you feel good as a head coach.
There are very few football teams that can get through the entire season having one guy take all the snaps.
It's funny, you were a fly on the wall in the conversation when we finally named the starter. That if you think about it, right now in the NFL and even in college, probably the most valuable guy you have that you don't talk about is the backup quarterback. Because at any moment during the year, when the starter goes down, this guy who hasn't taken a snap all season long is responsible for the future of the year. And that if they don't prepare like a starter, they won't be ready when their time is called. Now, to add a finer point to this, go back to 2013. Quarterback competition. Peter Athens wins a job over Connor Frazier.
Late.
Very late. Conversation in my office with Connor Frazier is you need to prepare every day like a starter because you don't know when your number is going to be called. And lo and behold, in the semifinal game, his number is called. And if it were not for Connor Frazier, if it were not for his work ethic over a course of a season, we wouldn't have gone to the national championship. So there's a right way to do it. Connor showed us the right way, and these guys are following suit.
Obviously led the final drive that put the Tigers on top to beat Eastern Washington. Now, as a whole, training camp, you do have a lot of veterans on this team. You also have a lot of young guys on this team. When you started training camp, as you head now into the week leading up to the game against South Florida? Have you accomplished all that you wanted to accomplish?
No, I think that's actually probably impossible to do, because the more you grow, the more you want to accomplish. The more you evolve, the more you can see the next step. So there are always more steps to take. I was pleased. I put myself out there in a way that I probably never have before. At the first week of camp, in 25 years of doing this, was the best first week of training camp I've ever been involved with at any level. And then, of course, we got to the grind of camp, and you don't hit the wall hits you. And finding guys, teaching guys, mentoring guys to grow through, to win through those incredibly hard moments in the heat of the summer. That's a challenge every year, even for veterans. But as we closed out camp, I think we finished well, and our eyes are on the prize. We know what is for next week, and we know what is for the rest of the season.
The other thing you had this year that you haven't had the last couple of years is you had really hot weather. The last couple of years, it's been kind of cool in August.
It has been. And the kids complain constantly the head coach's weather machine was in full effect, and that we're going to go to Tampa and it's ridiculously hot and humid there. And the only way for us to be able to even think about competing based on the geography was to eat right, to sleep right, to hydrate right a month ahead of time and pray for hot weather. So to have that 4 or 5 day stint that was just brutal and watch our guys go, okay, this is what we're going to have to face. This is how we're going to have to face it. And the only downside is I got these 3 or 4 days that were cool. Now we're ramping it back up again, but it'll be an advantage for them, but at least it won't be a complete advantage.
Look at the offensive side of the ball. We talked about the quarterback. The other thing you have is you have 9 offensive linemen who have played considerable amounts of times over the last couple of seasons. That has to make you happy because you have a lot of interchangeable parts there, guys that have played several spots on that offensive line.
It's a good and a bad thing. With the ability to change those parts around when you don't like what you see in a moment's notice is kind of cool in reference to competition. But continuity-wise, you start to struggle. You're wondering, all right, who truly is the best, and they need to have the most amount of reps at that spot. So we've been juggling all through camp, but I think we got a rotation that fits right for who we have and what we're trying to get done.
Wide receivers, you've mentioned a couple of freshmen have a chance to maybe play significant playing time this year. Christian Summers has made some unbelievable catches during camp. Are you comfortable with who you have at the wideout?
I am. I really am. It's an eclectic group. It's different. Christian and Dre clearly lead the way in experience, and they know exactly what they're doing, exactly how we want to do it, and there's really no intimidation. It doesn't really matter who we play. What was impressive is a guy like Morgan Scroggins just being so young and being ready to play, physically ready to play, mentally ready to play. That always surprises me the most. You take a kid out of high school and you put him in an NFL-style playbook. You give them NFL-style workouts to do, which are these kids aren't ready for that. Their bodies aren't ready for it. You know, he was here for a month and he got acclimated a little bit, but I've truly, truly been impressed. And there'll be some names that you have to call over the loudspeaker this year that you've never said before. But I'm confident that you're going to say them a lot.
Let's hope so. And then we haven't even touched on your running backs. And leading the way, Darius Victor, known as Vito. I told him at the CAA Media Day, I'm going to nickname him the Governor because this kid's going to have to go into politics. He's that good.
He really is. He's fun to be around. Talk about guys that help you sleep at night. He's the same guy he's always been, only that he's a little more hungry. That there's something that's been out of his reach that he wants to get a hold of with both hands. And not going back to the playoffs last year really, really bothered him. And there's a fire. You can't ever get Vito mad, or at least you're never going to see it. But there's a fire in him that just keeps building as we get closer and closer. And as a coach, you love seeing that. Now you talk about the rest of the guys. It's a corral. It's a stable full of talent. And Darius clearly leads the way. He's the veteran in the group. But man, don't sleep on anybody else in that crew. And you talk about we used to have a 1-2 punch with Terrence and Darius. Ooh, now I'm like a pitcher with a whole bunch of pitches.
There's going to be weeks where you're going to say to yourself, you know, I don't want to give Darius the ball 28 times this week because I may need him for 35 next week.
If you go all the way back to 2011, we were playing 3 and 4 backs a game before Terrence was the full-time starter.
Didn't even play the first game of the year.
And rushing for 2.25, 250 a game, and nobody had 100 yards. And from a defensive coordinator standpoint, as I talk to buddies that, around the league and in different leagues, that's a nightmare. You're talking about 3 to 4 to 5 different kids with different running styles. That's hard to defend. It's mentally hard to defend. So, the only problem is we only have one ball. I wish we had more.
Well, the other thing is you have a position that you use extensively that many teams, it's extinct, and that's the fullback. And you've got a lot of talent coming back there too.
It's probably two of the best, most physical backs at fullback that we've ever had here. And that's in John Swagger was a pretty amazing fullback. John O'Neill's a pretty amazing fullback, tailback type guy. And Danny Ricker did a little bit of both when he played. And
A little bit.
He was pretty impressive too. So having a 1-2 senior punch at fullback, where you're going to get hammered by one, and then he goes out and you're going to take a deep breath. Oh, he's out. No, here comes the other one. And I think on occasion we might put them both in the game just for fun. So it's a lot of weapons. We just got to find the right way to use them in the right times and play to their strengths.
Your brother, Jared, now a veteran offensive coordinator. How much has he changed since you first promoted him from an assistant position coach to an offensive coordinator?
I would say a good bit, and for the better. That happens with all of us. We evolve, we grow. And that schematically, while we're always going to create plays versus their scheme that are good, that would work, it doesn't necessarily always mean that it'll work for these kids. He's done a great job of figuring out what our kids can do really well versus what the other team does and put us in a good position to be successful.
All right. The Tigers are set to take on the Bulls this Saturday. Kickoff scheduled for 7 p.m. I'll have the call along with Towson Athletics Hall of Fame coach Gordy Combs on CBS Sports Radio 1300 starting at 6:45. The game will be available for viewing on ESPN3 and the American Sports Network. Now, before we go, new segment every week. I'm going to throw a name at you from somebody that you either played with, were an assistant coach, or a head coach. First words that come to your mind. This week, we go back to the early 90s. Carl Nieberlein.
Long, strong, physical, and a winner.
And an offensive line that didn't let the quarterback get sacked, that's for sure. That will do it for us on today's episode of the Tiger Football Report. For head coach Rob Ambrose, I'm Spiro Morekas. See you next week, and as always, go Tigers.